Where did the SEC finish in the final AP rankings, and could Kentucky be the next Indiana? Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we got the official, final AP poll rankings out yesterday after Indiana was crowned national champion, taking down Miami, and a historic run for Indiana in the undefeated season. And now the Big Ten with 3 different teams winning consecutive national championships. Hey, the SEC used to do that sort of thing, but not so much here the last few years. Let's take a look at the final AP poll rankings. And yeah, several SEC teams coming in there in the top 15. Actually ends up with 7 in the top 15. Ole Miss finishes 3rd. They are the highest ranked SEC team to finish the season. Who had that coming? And oh, by the way, who had Lane Kiffin leaving before they finished top 3 in the country? But the final AP poll released Tuesday morning, Rebels as the highest ranked SEC team in the country. The team that beat Ole Miss in the college football playoff was the second highest ranked team in the SEC, as the Georgia Bulldogs came in at number 6. Texas A&M, of course, made it to the college football playoff for the first time in their history before losing to Miami in the first round. They finished at 8. The Aggies, or Alabama, they finished ranked 9th after losing to Indiana in the Rose Bowl. And then outside of that, you had Texas finishing 12th, Oklahoma 13th, and Vanderbilt 15th. Pretty cool to see Vanderbilt ranked in the top 15 in the final poll. Certainly a historic year for Clark Lee and company. But yeah, I mean, nothing really jumps out here other than, the historicness of Ole Miss being ranked that high to finish a season. And like I said, be the highest ranked SEC team. But Georgia kind of expected they would be finished somewhere in the top 10 there. A&M, of course, making the playoff, finishing 8th. Alabama finishing 9th. Texas 12, Oklahoma 13, Vanderbilt 15. So, not much to really glean off of this other than, okay, now the stage sets for looking ahead to next season. And where do these teams move? Because we start to talk about, how you rank teams. So many people say, you're ranking for 2026, you're ranking based off of what this team looks like now. But so many people do the carryover thing. They take over, where this team finished last year, and we're going to do the little carryover and say, okay, well, that's where we bring it ahead to next year. And, of course, on 3, they did their way too early top 25 we talked about on yesterday's show. But you can already kind of see it. Like, I think Georgia and Oklahoma and A&M are all going to find themselves, somewhere in the top 10, Texas as well. Ole Miss is the only interesting one, like if they don't bring back Trinidad Chambliss. And I don't know when we're going to find that out, have to wait for the courtrooms in Mississippi to come up with a ruling or whatever. But that's kind of where this is. And Alabama going all the way down to 17. I mentioned yesterday, Connor O'Gara kind of talked about that with Alabama, that they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt going into year 3 of Kalen DeBoer after you had you lose Ty Simpson, who was a very productive quarterback, but you have the lack of run game and all that last season. Is that going to get better? I think there's just a lot of pieces there that Alabama, they're not, like I said, not going to get the benefit of the doubt. So let's take a look at the portal rankings. This is the latest up-to-date transfer portal rankings. Not much has changed here. A couple of teams have added guys here the last day or two. So the commitment numbers have changed, but the rankings really haven't changed much. LSU number 1, Ole Miss number 2, Texas number 3. Those are the 3 top portal classes. Kentucky sitting at number 9, A&M 11, Auburn 12, Alabama 17, Oklahoma 19, South Carolina 20. And then you got Tennessee, Mizzou, Florida, Arkansas, and Georgia all in that 21 to 30 range, with Mississippi State and Vandy at 34 and 40 respectively. And so now let's get you caught up on the latest portal moves in the last 24 hours or so. How about over at Ole Miss? They are getting a guy to switch allegiances. The Iron Bowl, of course, Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Tony Mitchell, who spent last season in Starkville after a year at both Alabama and the JUCO level, he committed to Ole Miss out of the transfer portal and had a nice year. 25 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss for the Bulldogs. And he'll be heading over to the other side of the Egg Bowl rivalry, heading to Ole Miss. And they have put together quite a portal class, particularly on defense. They've got Jonell Aguero, the safety from Georgia, Edwin Joseph from Florida State, a couple of DBs, and Sharif Denson from Florida, and Jay Crawford from Auburn. And now you add Tony Mitchell to that mix. That is a very nice secondary that Pete Golding is building there on the defensive side. How about some coaching news, just in terms of assistants? Kirby Smart with a change in-house, changing his offensive line coach, announcing that Stacy Searles is making the change from on-field O-line coach and will transition to an analyst role. Phil Rauscher will take over as O-line coach in a promotion from his previous quality control coach. Kirby Smart saying in a statement, "We're grateful for everything Coach Searles has poured into this program over the past few years. His knowledge, experience, and steady leadership have been instrumental to our offensive production. In his new role, Stacy will continue to impact our offensive strategy and provide mentorship for both our staff and our players." It was a second stint for Stacy Searles as Georgia's O-line coach. Of course, held that position back in 07, 08, 09, 2010 under Mark Richt, and then rejoined the Georgia staff ahead of the 2022 season. Rauscher, he was a UCLA lineman back in 03, 04, 05. Then was an NFL assistant before joining the Georgia staff ahead of this past season. So Kirby Smart saying Phil's been a tremendous asset to our staff and players. He's earned this opportunity. We're excited about the future of our O-line. So it's kind of interesting, coaches who kind of tell you without telling you where they think there needs to be some improvement. We talk about with Steve Sarkisian, obviously made a monster change, changing out his defensive coordinator. We're all kind of looking and going, I don't know, it's not that bad. Same thing, running back coach. They were so bad running the football last year at Texas. They're like, we got to make a change. They go get Jabbar Jaluk from Florida. Same thing here. Look, we look at Georgia's O-line. They had some struggles at times, but for the most part, that's been a great unit the past few years. But maybe Kirby Smart saying a change was needed there. Let's make a coaching change and get this thing done. How about another portal addition? Get back to some portal news. Mizzou signing a corner from Ole Miss on Tuesday. Ole Miss starter Chris Graves announcing he will head to Mizzou. Played 3 seasons at Ole Miss. Saw his role increase this year, starting 9 games at DB for Ole Miss and finished with 33 tackles. In his career at Oxford, finishes with over 60 tackles, 7 passes defended, and 2 forced fumbles. And so Mizzou adding some depth there at corner. And they traditionally have had good corner play there at Mizzou. So a good pickup there for Eli Drinkwitz. How about over at Tennessee? Another coaching change. The Volunteers announcing they've hired Derek Owings as the program's next director of football sports performance. So on Monday night, Owings, he was coaching for Miami coaching against Miami for Indiana, winning a national championship with the Hoosiers. He spent the last 6 seasons working with Kurt Signetti, was with him at James Madison, followed him over to Indiana. Josh Heupel saying in a statement, physical and mental toughness is paramount in everything we do year-round as a program. No one understands this better at a championship level than Derek. He will elevate our strength and conditioning program with a relentless mindset and forge strong relationships with our players. We're thrilled to welcome him and his wife to Rocky Top. Now, Owings will reportedly get a hefty pay raise. He'll be making close to $1.2 million per year, which is the most ever for a strength and conditioning coach, according to Matt Zenitz of CBS Sports. Now, Tennessee has spent a ton of money this offseason on improvements. The defense was a big issue last year. They go and get Jim Knowles, giving him a 3-year deal, paying him an average of $2.2 million, and now the strength and conditioning coach. But I think it's a big move from a standpoint of, look at what Indiana did these last 2 years, how tough and physical they got in the trenches, particularly just from 24 to 25. I mean, offensive and defensive line, that's how they won the national championship. They were physical. They pushed Alabama around in the Rose Bowl. So give him credit. If he can do that in Knoxville, watch out. Tennessee could be very, very physical up front. And not the strength and conditioning coach makes everything for your team, but certainly can help develop that toughness and that mindset that you need. A few other portal notes here. Jeff Lebby suffering a loss in the transfer portal on Tuesday. Starting offensive lineman Javen James announced he is entering the portal. When the portal closed on Friday, schools had 2 business days to put the transfer or process the transfer. So apparently he did that, but news just coming out on Tuesday that Javen James officially had entered the portal. He'd started 12 of 13 games this past season after starting 9 games in his first 2 years at Akron. He's the second O-lineman to leave Mississippi State. As we know, Zach Owens transferred to Missouri earlier this week. And then one more nugget here. LSU reportedly garnering a lot of momentum for the top transfer O-lineman Jordan Seaton out of Colorado. Keep an eye on that, see if they are able to finish the deal. And then lastly, Alabama running back Xavier Crowell won Alabama's Mr. Football for 2025. He said to the media on Tuesday, "It just gave me chills. A little shock went through my body when they made the announcement." Said it means a lot to follow in the footsteps of guys like Ryan Williams, Julio Jones, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and a lot of other former Tide players who have won that award. But he said, like Ryan Williams told me, he said, "I better win, so I came here and I wanted." Crowell totaled 2,600 yards and 35 touchdowns as a senior. So a lot of Alabama fans thinking he could be a piece of getting that run game back on track for the Crimson Tide. We'll see what he does as a true freshman. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we're going to transition, talk a little Kentucky with our guy Lance Dawe. We're posing the question: Indiana wins the national championship of football. Could Kentucky do that in the next few years under Will Stein? We'll discuss. Maybe not as crazy as you think. More Locked On SEC here coming up next. Hey guys, with the college football playoff come and gone and into the thick of college basketball, FanDuel, they're giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day. Right now, every game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. What you're going to love is you use that profit boost on the bets you already feel good about. If you feel like riding the favorite, if you feel like taking a shot on an underdog, you want to build a parlay around the players and the moments you think will decide games, you can apply that profit boost and go after even bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for every day following sports. FanDuel, the best place to get into the action all throughout the regular season. And all you got to do is visit FanDuel.com to get your profit boost every game day. It is only at FanDuel.com and only on the FanDuel app. We'll start bringing you some of those lines that are up there right now all throughout the college basketball season, all, into the thick of it in SEC play. We got some great matchups happening, several times a week throughout the SEC. And so you can check all that out. Get in on the action at FanDuel.com. And like we said, on the FanDuel app. Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On SEC your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day, so why not take it up a level? Go ad-free, please. I would implore you guys to just check this out. LockedOnSEC.supercast.com. Join our Everydayer Club. Get Locked On SEC with no interruptions. That means no ads that you got to skip or whatever. Members only Discord access. What does that mean? You get the Discord app. You can chat with me and all our other SEC hosts. You got any questions about the SEC throughout this whole offseason, how your depth chart's shaping up, what guy you're most interested in becoming the next star, you can do that. Chat with us in the Discord channel, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnSEC.supercast.com or check the link in our show notes to learn more. And joining us now here on Locked On SEC is our buddy Lance Dawe of Locked On Kentucky. And man, he's talking a lot of basketball this time of year, but probably talking more football than he ever imagined this time of year, as Kentucky made some big moves this offseason. Of course, buying out Mark Stoops, making a change there, and bringing in the very young Will Stein, younger than me, to be their next head coach. Welcome in, Lance, and we'll start right there. What did you make of the hire when that news came out a couple weeks ago that Kentucky was hiring Will Stein, offense coordinator from Oregon?
Well, I think the biggest shock to me, Gordy, is something that you said. We're talking a lot of football here on Locked On Kentucky in the middle of January, which is just unbelievable. But yeah, I was really pleased whenever the hire was announced. It was kind of even before Mark Stoops was let go. It was kind of rumored that Kentucky would try and push in that direction, try and get a former Oregon offensive coordinator, Will Stein. Look, I love what he's done with the Ducks over the last several years, just consistently been one of the most productive offenses in the country. They've gotten it done both on the ground and through the air. And so my question whenever Stein was hired is, well, are they going to actually invest the money and the time to actually go and get the players that will make this team go in 2026 and beyond? And honestly, I'm really pleased with what Stein and company have done, even through him coaching the Ducks through the college football playoff. Kentucky's been able to get a number of guys that I'm really excited about through the transfer portal that I think will make this team at least competent or more competent this season than they were last year. Several guys along the trenches that I'm really excited about that I think will make this offensive and defensive line better. And then obviously you get your quarterback in Kenny Minchey here, who was originally committed to Nebraska. Sorry, Cornhusker fans, that we had to pull him away from you. But this overall has just been really honestly shocking to me, Gordy, at how seriously it looks like Kentucky's taking football now that Stein is here, and they're investing a lot to try and make this team better.
Yeah, I mean, I was there in Lexington this season, and I was actually at the Texas game, and the fans showed up and showed out. I mean, that was even still where everything was looking dismal under Stoops, and but the fans showed up. The team showed up that night and played their butts off, and probably should have won that game in overtime, but let it slip away. But I've talked to so many folks, Lance, that they say this one just means so much more. Because one, yes, Will Stein is an offensive-minded coach, so that's the one thing Kentucky fans have been asking for years now. Is like, yes, the defense has been great under Stoops so many times, but it's been that offense. So you get an offensive-minded head coach, and a guy who's from Kentucky. I mean, from Louisville, but a guy who knows that area, who's going to be able to recruit, and just a young guy that I think is bringing a lot of energy that's going to excite a lot of people. And so, yeah, you mentioned it, the portal class sitting in the top 10 right now. You mentioned Kenny Minchey, the quarterback, but I'll just ask you, if you had to pick one, which addition kind of excites you most right now?
If I had to pick one, it's a little tough because I really like one position group that they have kind of added a lot of guys to, but I'll go with Colton Price. The center from Baylor, who was one of the best centers in the country last season, at least according to PFF, one of the better players in the Big 12 overall. Absolutely loved getting the interior of this offensive line situated pretty quickly. And then also you look at guys like Lance Hurd from Tennessee, the former 5-star there. I believe Tegra Shabola is how you pronounce his name. I might be incorrect there. The offensive lineman from Ohio State. I mean, you're getting guys not just to have the experience or the accolades, you're getting guys from major programs, Tennessee, Baylor, Ohio State. And then when you look across the board, Gordy, I mean, guys from Florida, LSU, Alabama. I mean, a lot of different big time programs that you're getting kids from. I mean, I'm really excited. While they may not necessarily have the star power across the board, there's a lot of guys who have been in big time programs, specifically in this conference, that are going to be bringing either a lot of experience or a lot of previous talent. At least they were extremely talented coming out of high school. So I love the offensive line. I really like being able to build that interior up, get the big blue wall back to where it was several years ago. If I had to pick one guy, though, Colton Price out of Baylor, I think he's my stud here.
Yeah, and we're seeing we're bringing Joe Sloan, the former LSU OC, over. That's kind of helping bring a couple of LSU guys as well. And Nick Anderson, the wide receiver that started his career at Oklahoma, now going to Kentucky. So it's a whole lot of new faces. I mean, I don't know if they're going to have a traditional spring game, Lance. We've seen a lot of SEC teams move away from that, but this is definitely a year where if you're a Kentucky fan, buy a program for week one, because you're going to have a lot of new names to get to know and new numbers and all that. But I would have posed this question to you, and this was the main reason of having you on, Lance, is we just saw a few nights ago the Indiana Hoosiers win the college football national championship. And we couldn't help but kind of make that comparison that, could Kentucky make that leap? A traditional basketball school, but achieving the biggest, level of success on the football field. It would have sounded crazy a few weeks ago to say that. Could Kentucky do that? And we know the road is tough in the SEC, but Indiana doing that in the Big Ten. I mean, Kurt Cignetti, again, 2 years ago, if you would have said that, you would have said you're crazy. So is that possible where Will Stein could build this thing up that a Kentucky team could potentially make a college football playoff run?
I would say that it's definitely possible. Now, are you going to see multiple teams like Kentucky, who are historically basketball schools? Are you going to see them kind of dip into the NIL pockets of boosters and really go after football now and find the success that Indiana has? I'm not like win a national championship. I'm not exactly sure because I just think that Signetti is unique and special, and his ability to get the most out of the kids that he's brought over from James Madison. I think this is a very unique thing that he's been able to not just make this run happen, but to dominate everybody on the way there. So while I think that a play like making the college football playoff, making a run in the playoff for somebody like Will Stein absolutely is possible. He's going to have to be unique as well in his ability to just coach the best out of his players, limit mistakes, be able to establish both sides of the line of scrimmage and just dominate without making, again, any sort of mistakes. It's kind of the thing with Indiana. They're just so methodical. And, the thing back in the day with Nick Saban was joyless murder ball, about how they would just go and just absolutely crush the life out of everyone. Georgia kind of doing the same thing under Kirby Smart there for a few years, maybe not as much recently, but Stein is going to have to bring an edge to this program that has not been here for a hot minute. Obviously, Stoops, known for being bringing extremely physical teams to Lexington. But Stein is going to have to be able to do something that, again, we just haven't ever really seen before outside of recently. So while, yes, I think it is positive, again, to answer the question, or possible, I should say, to answer the question, will he find a national championship in the next 2 years? It would be very difficult to replicate that. But I have faith in Stein to, I think, overachieve relative to maybe some expectations that he might have even this upcoming season. And I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say next two. I'd give him 5, 5 years,
yeah.
but I'm not even saying win a championship. I mean, look, that would be incredible if Kentucky did, but like make a playoff run. And what stood out to me too, and just the parallels, Lance, when we talk about Indiana basketball school, like the fact that fan base showed up and showed out. I mean, they were the majority there in Atlanta. They were the majority there in Miami for those playoff games. And I look at Kentucky, it's got a national fan base that, yes, basketball, they show up through and through throughout March Madness. But if Kentucky ever made it to a football playoff game, I think you're talking fans would sell everything to go to that because they've never been there before.
There is a large portion of this fan base that have told me, shockingly so, that they would give anything for Kentucky football to be relevant and to be competent consistently. Some people even saying over basketball. I mean, this fan base, with how passionate and invested they are in one program, like you said, if I can imagine if football starts popping off the way that maybe some team like Indiana has, I think that Kentucky would come in droves to support their team if they were able to find that level of success. So yeah, I think Kentucky's got the fan base to do it. I would say that they have the resources to do it, despite maybe being handcuffed by a couple of different things in-house. That is a conversation for another day, Gordy, as far as what's going on in basketball recruiting right now and the money that they can or can't throw at kids. But I think they've got the money. I think they've got the fan base. I think they've got the conference to do it. They have the ability to showcase their talents and ability to actually go and make a deep run in the playoff because they're in the SEC, because of the investment that the conference gives back financially. So yeah, they're in the perfect spot to become the next Indiana or something like the next Indiana. It's just a matter of going and establishing it early here. And I think that Stein has, again, to go back to the transfer portal class, he's got a lot of guys here that, while they might not be the biggest 3 or 4-star or 5-star names, right, there's still a lot of guys that I have a lot of high hopes for.
Just a couple of minutes here left on Locked On SEC, and appreciate our guys Lance Dawe for joining us Locked On Kentucky. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit of hoops, and I'm starting, college football season's over. I'll start to kind of turn the page and get into a little SEC basketball. Catch us up on Kentucky. They started the season 0-2 in conference play, not going great, but since then, 3 straight wins, including a couple of comeback wins against LSU and Tennessee. Where is this squad right now?
Yeah, before SEC play, I think that this is about as sad as I've ever seen the fan base in my 5 seasons of doing this show. It is shocking just how poorly Kentucky has played relative to the expectations set this season, most notably by our head coach and Mark Pope. You spend what is reported to be $22 million. Let's throw the $22 million number out real quick. They spent a lot of money on this roster, and the coach has kind of gone around parading this offseason saying that they're going to be one of the best teams in the country. They're going to be really good. They're going to go for a ninth national championship. And they've lost every conceivable big-time game, at least in the non-con slate: Louisville, Michigan State, Gonzaga, North Carolina. You start 0-2 in SEC play. I mean, a friend of mine likes to tell me, just because you're down bad doesn't mean you can't be down worse. I mean, there's always a further level to go to. And then they rattle off 3 straight victories, like you mentioned, Gordy, and 2 of them, I think it's incomprehensible how they beat LSU. It was more understandable to see them beat the Vols because I just thought that was a good matchup, but to rally from 12 down against Mississippi State, 17 down at Tennessee, 18 down at LSU, and he hit a buzzer beater at the end off of a full court heave from Colin Chandler to get the ball to Malachi Marino. I mean, this is just inexplicable how they've been able to kind of rally back in the second half without their starting point guard. He's gone for the rest of the season. Jaden Quaintance, their future lottery pick, he's not playing right now and might not for the rest of the season, according to reports. They're doing this without their best players. They're doing this without momentum. They're just finding a way with their back against the wall. 3-2 in SEC play right now, and you got 2 good games against Texas and Ole Miss this week. You got to be able to capitalize, though. Really, 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 really big that you get these next 2 and start to build some momentum. So while I would say this fan base is still very much so upset and very much so kind of down, again, relative to the expectations, they're happy with this last week and a half or so. It's been remarkable to see what they pulled off.
Last thing for you, what have you made of kind of the SEC landscape so far? I know Florida had a couple of tough non-conference losses, but man, they've 5-1 so far in SEC play. They're sitting right up there top, the reigning national champs. So got to remember that. But I know A&M's been impressive, and then there's a whole log jam of teams from Ole Miss to Vandy, Georgia, Alabama. So, I mean, what do you make of the conference where it is right now?
I'll say this, and this is not just to be critical, just be critical. I think the conference is down, especially relative to where it was last year, because some of the teams at the top, I would argue, are more volatile and inconsistent with just based on their style of play. And I think that will be proven as the SEC slate goes on. Some of the teams at the top, I should say, are more volatile in the way that they operate. I like some of these teams here as far as what they could do in the NCAA tournament. I'm big on Florida. Arkansas is a team that I think, again, really volatile, but could be huge because they can outscore just about anybody. Same with Bama, same with Vanderbilt, just super high ceilings, but also I think some really low floors for some of these teams. So it makes for a better slate week in and week out, sure. And I think that might benefit Kentucky if they're going to get back into this thing. But top to bottom, it's a weaker league than it was a season ago. Maybe you see some more chaotic results, I think, is the positive thing out of it. But if you're a Wildcats fan, the best thing that you can do is say, look, we're 12-6. We've won 3 straight. And the teams that are ahead of us, I think that they depend on some pretty hot shooting to kind of be the style that they are. Florida, obviously not like that, but you understand what I'm saying here. Just for the most part, teams that you're going to be competing with for that double bye in the SEC tournament, or seeds, period, that are within your own conference, or high seeds in the NCAA tournament, maybe you can push past them. So it's fun, but it's not as great as it was a year ago.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'd say maybe five, maybe 6 teams they get in the tournament. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'm underestimating, and maybe it'll be more. But you're right. I mean, last year they got off such a great start with all the marquee non-conference wins last year. That's what kind of made you say, "Oh, the SEC is awesome," and then kind of from there. But still a lot to be determined. You like Stephen Pearl? I don't know. Jury's still out on him at all.
No, I think that I don't know if Auburn will move on from him after a year, but I don't know if that was necessarily the right decision to make for the Tigers. And frankly, I thought he was set up pretty poorly by Bruce, all things considered. I mean, this roster is not, you didn't have a 5-man heading into the year, basically, and the one that you brought in from JUCO is now out for the rest of the year. So pretty tough situation for him and the Tigers after being one of the best teams in the nation a season ago. But hey, maybe they'll find a way to rebound through the portal next season.
Yeah, I mean, leaving him high and dry, it's not like it's his son or anything,
Right. It's not like it's your own son. But
Lance, always good to catch up, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, thanks again to Lance Dawe for joining us. Thank you guys for tuning into today's Locked On SEC. Make sure you subscribe and follow so you get all the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On SEC ad-free, plus our members-only Discord access and more. All you got to do is head to LockedOnSEC.supercast.com. LockedOnSEC.supercast.com. Encourage you to check it out. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow right here on Locked On SEC.